Good morning, Internet. I'm here in Rochester, Minnesota today at a place called the Quarry Hill Nature Park. Quarry Hill, that's important. There's like actually 2 quarry parks here in Minnesota. But anyway, we are here to do the Quarry Ruins Trail today. And it's actually a pretty nice day, but it's cold. It's early October right now. And I'm kind of excited for this because I wanted to come here in October specifically because this Quarry Hill Ruins Trail, it goes along what used to be here. That's the ruin part. It used to be the Rochester State Hospital. It was a institute for mental illness, and it ran from like the 1800s to around the 1980s. And they have a lot of ruins here from the quarry operation they used to run and the farm they used to run. The hospital itself was pretty self-sustaining. They would have patients work those. It was like part of their treatment. And we also get to see the old cemetery, which you know I love. I love checking out cemeteries, and this is a pretty interesting one. So yeah, October seemed like a good time to come out here and do it, and let's get going. There's actually more people out here than I thought there would be. For some reason I thought this would be kind of a secluded trail, but there's a lot of families out here walking. It is a paved path. Alright, here's the first spot from the old quarry. You can pause if you'd like to read that. I don't know how interesting this first one's gonna be. I think it's just an old wall. I'm out here with my sister and my boyfriend. So I read a bit about this hospital before coming out here because of course anytime there's gonna be an old mental asylum out in the woods, there's gonna be a lot of urban legends. Whew, I shouldn't have waited till the uphill part for this. Anyway, there were historical documentation of patients being abused. They couldn't really pay the attendants enough to get the proper people out here, and they weren't able to like supervise them as much as they probably should have. So there were beatings of patients, sadly, especially those who were convicts. And one was actually beaten to death in 1889. So that's quite sad, but it did lead to some improvements of their system, though I know it didn't completely solve the problem. Woo! But yes, and there were of course they changed how they did their treatment of patients. You know, in the 40s there was a lot of like insulin and electrocution therapy, and in the 50s they actually did perform lobotomies on patients out here. So luckily we have much better treatment methods now, and we're not still lobotomizing people. Alright, we've come to quite a fork here, and we realized we're doing the trail backwards because here's a 9. So hopefully we go the right way. This little path off here is kind of interesting because there's a cut in the rock here you can see. I don't know if this used to be part of an old part of the grounds or what. Let's see if it just goes up a little ways here. More uphill. Looks like it keeps going a ways. Well, I think that was just a spur trail. So get back out here. Don't want to get too distracted. They do have a lot of trails out here actually. I think the trees must be past peak here, because a lot of them are either just bare or we still have green, weirdly. Well, I don't know where we are, but we found an overlook of Rochester. We have no idea if we're going the wrong way. There's like a million little deer paths going off every which way. Alright, so all those cliffs that I kept seeing that I thought were man-made walls, well, we did actually finally find one. So this must be part of the ruins, though we still haven't found a sign. So I'm not sure which part this belonged to. but this is a very old construction. Like I said, this was built back in like the late 1800s, so it's over 100 years old. There's no structure on the other side, and there's a sign telling us not to go over there, so I'm not gonna. But let's keep looking for some signs. And the trail we're supposed to be on. So unfortunately, there are a few spots around that people have graffitied, which is ridiculous. Alright, we just went in a big circle. We're gonna go try and find the beginning. But that's the last half of the trail, or I don't even know if that was half. We found numbers 10 through 7. So, the last third-ish. Remember this? Remember the retaining wall? Good times. A sign! Alright. This was the rock loading area of the old quarry. I'm guessing that loading area that this goes up to was the ruins that we found when we were up top. Here's another ruin from the old hospital. This fireplace. It's fenced off, but I guess that's a good thing considering there was graffiti on those other ruins we saw. But apparently this used to be a landfill actually, before they decided it would be a good picnic area for the patients. I wonder though how far down that stuff is and if they let anyone with like a metal detector go through this place like in more recent years, because there's always like really cool stuff that people find in those old kind of trash pits. Even if it's trash, I don't know, some of that stuff is pretty cool. Here's a sign if you'd like to read a little more about it. Mostly what I just said, but I guess also these cottonwoods, I think it's talking about these two on either side back here, are also equally old. Okay, we're off to the caves now. They're inside of this hill that we climbed up at the beginning of this video when I was out of breath. We're headed back up. Shockingly, this path is a lot easier to follow when you start at the beginning. No sooner have I said that than we have a choice between two here.
Well, Pokemon Go says to the left.
Ooh, can we peek in? Probably not allowed to see. Wow, I can see way better through the camera than the naked eye. It's just pitch black in there to my eye. Alright, we're gonna be completionists and see if this is another one of the blocked off exits. Ah, it is. But this one's actually gated. You can see in a lot better to this one. Cool.
Oh wow.
Okay, it's a good thing we came back around this way because I think this is actually the best way to look into the caves. I think the other exits are completely blocked off. Also, this one looks like a vampire lives here, so much cooler. So these were sandstone caves that they kept all their like food and vegetables and everything else for the hospital in, and the patients actually dug out these caves too. They do tours through here, just not the day that we're here, but I mean it is basically totally empty, so I don't think there's all that much to see. It sounded like this whole thing is like a horseshoe shape, so a wagon and horse could go through and then just come out the other side. And these kind of cool dark doorways you see leading off are just alcoves. They don't really lead that far back. That's where they would store things. Though I think there are some kind of bigger rooms where they would keep things. So if you want to see that, you'll have to come here and come on a day when they're doing one of the tours. I'm kind of trying to look in and see though, because there was an interesting story I read about one of the patients who, I think he led the men who dug this out, and he sounded like an interesting guy. His name was Thomas Coyne, and he believed that he was either Jesus or a prophet of some kind. And he was supposed to have dug a poem, or I should say etched a poem in the limestone. It was supposed to be on the wall of the middle entrance, just before the storage room. So I don't know if that's like here, or maybe it is just really far back. Maybe down there? Again, it is pretty old at this point, so it was pretty worn. I saw a photo of it where you could only just faintly see where he had signed his name. He signed it "Coin the Prophet." Well, we couldn't find it, and maybe by middle entrance they meant that blocked off door that we passed, so guess we would have to come back for the tour. Maybe it's a good thing that we did this trail backwards, because now the finale, the grand finale, is the cemetery. I believe that's next. The cemetery sign is all ripped up, but I got the info, and here it is. Ooh, it's huge. So there's just over 2,000 people buried here, mostly in unmarked graves. The hospital used to stamp numbers into concrete markers that were molded from coffee cans, but those were removed because they were worried about vandals. So instead, they put in a sign down at the bottom there to try and kind of memorialize everyone. It says, "A memorial to the 2019 immigrants and rural folk whose life expectations were disrupted by illness." But what's pretty cool is in '99, a group put together a database from the hospital cemetery ledgers so that they could add in some of these headstones with actual names and dates. Which is really cool. That's like a very noble effort. Obviously they didn't get to even half of them. When I saw an article about it, I'm not sure if it was saying they put in 50 total, or if at the time of the article they were adding like another 50. But yeah, you can see there's only a few rows of them, and then mostly the rest of the plot is empty. But you know, at least they did get some recognition for some of these patients buried here. At least there was an attempt made, and there is a database. I read that originally there was a road that went through the middle of the cemetery, which I don't know where that was, if it was like down this way, or if maybe there is a road down there. But apparently back in the day they used to bury male patients south of the road, and then female patients got buried north of the road. I guess it was just for propriety in death. And then in the 1940s they stopped doing that, and women were buried south of the road. And yeah, after that they just started burying them all, you know, side by side. Yeah, could you imagine unchaperoned ghosts haunting willy-nilly boy girl? It'd be nonsense. It's actually a very pretty spot with these big woods off to the side. I think there's definitely more than 50 out here. I'm not sure what total number they actually got to, but there's a decent amount that they were able to add headstones to. We found one more sign here. So originally they did have crosses on them, and then a few were able to have tombstones, and then here are those cement cylinder grave markers I was talking about. There's one more interesting thing that I'm looking for. It's supposed to be on the northeast edge here of the graveyard. A mortuary cave where they would inter the bodies during winter, because obviously this is Minnesota and the ground was too frozen to bury anyone. So they would have to keep them in this cave and then bury them in the springtime when the ground thawed. I think it's this tiny little track here. Really? Graffiti? Well, it's pretty buried now. Really? So not only did this person graffiti this 100-year-old structure, they left their spray paint can in the mortuary cave. Hopefully that's something they can get removed. I know it is difficult to take off paint like that, but hopefully that is something that they can wash off without too much detriment to the stone, and it won't happen again. Well, I no longer wonder about the signs saying, you know, the headstones had to be removed for vandalism and all this kind of stuff, because there you go, there's vandalism still happening. People can't help themselves, apparently. I think that must have been fairly recent since those cans were still in there, but wow. Well, I hate to end this on a bad note, but we are heading back to the car since we already did the back half of the trail. I really like this and I thought it was cool. I wish other people would think it was cool and not destroy it. And yeah, hopefully I can leave a donation to help them get some of that paint off. They must have to deal with that fairly often, I guess. But anyway, we are going to continue on. We're doing some more hiking at state parks in southern Minnesota. This is actually just our first stop. I don't know that I'm filming videos about those, but I will definitely see you somewhere else, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!